Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reading Between the Headlines. I'm Asaf Nissim. Let's do the thing. Headline number 1. Celtic launch shock move for Mourinho as Roma and Lyon also target ex-Manchester United boss. So, reports from the Daily Mail are that not only has Jose Mourinho been approached by Celtic, but they've also tabled an offer for him. Regardless if the rumors are true and the self-anointed special one was actually looking for the sack himself, it seems that he has played his sacking quite intelligently. He put on a pleasant, even if sometimes a bit somber face in the beginning, but you could tell he was trying to stay out of sight amidst all the drama following the actual dismissal. He began making appearances as a pundit, what seemed like several months afterwards, and he was back to his old opinionated, sarcastically smiley self. So, credit to him for doing it all right. I feel like when he was sacked after the disaster campaign at United, people seemed to think that Mourinho had nowhere to go. The media narrative made it feel like his last managerial foray with United had so badly besmirched his reputation that he would never work in this town again. At least not for a club of any real significance, you know? And now people hear these reports and it's like, everything's changed. It sounds almost ridiculous that Jose Mourinho, former United, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Inter Milan manager, the special one, would go to Celtic. Now, I don't want to make it seem like I feel that Celtic aren't a significant club. Not at all. I've actually been to Celtic Park and it is a magical place. It's beautiful. Maxes out at about 60,000 seats. Now, that is nothing to sneeze at. That is more than Stamford Bridge, more than Anfield, about the same as Emirates, Etihad, and the new Spurs Stadium. The club just has so much heart, and the fans are incredible. You just feel like they're not done writing their history. And with a bit of financial backing and a manager like Jose Mourinho, maybe they could have a go at the Champions League a la Mourinho's Porto 2004. Now, while I don't think anyone's convinced this is actually going to happen, when you think about it, not many other clubs come to mind that would really suit Mourinho. I guess Tuchel is having a rough go at PSG right now, and that seems like a more likely place for Mourinho to go. They've got the ambition, the superstars, the money, the brand, the city, which, by the way, is quite close to London, where Mourinho and his family still live. Who really knows, though? What I will say is that I think most Premier League fans want to see him back in the league, turning heads, inspiring narrative, and just being the character that we all love or love to hate. I mean, come on, guys. Even if you hate the dude, he belongs with us. Headline number 2. Norwich fan's son given middle name Farklife in honor of manager who led them to the Premier League. What? You may have gone just a step too far if you've named your son Farklife. To be fair, it's only his middle name, so perhaps he'll just top the list of kids unwilling to divulge their embarrassing middle names. But the more significant story here is that the Canaries are on their way back to the top flight in England. So congratulations, Canaries, Norwich fans. Congrats, mazel tov, all the things. I mentioned it briefly last week when I was talking about Bournemouth, but Norwich City actually have their own historic achievements. From 2009 to 2011, under Paul Lambert, I'm sure you know who he is, he managed at Aston Villa, etc. They were the first club since Manchester City in 2000 to win back-to-back promotions, from League One to the Championship to the Premier League. There were some really great personal success stories in the mix there too. Grant Holtz in particular was impressive, and I really liked him as a no-nonsense physical striker. Of course, these days, you're more likely to find him leaping from the ropes or clotheslining his enemies in the wonderful world of professional wrestling than scoring 17 goals in the Premier League like he did in 2011-2012 with Norwich. It's also worth noting that Norwich manager Daniel Farke, or Farke or whatever it is, will be yet another Austro-German rising star joining us in the best league in the world. I think it's interesting that the German style seems a lot more akin to the dynamism of the Premier League than, say, the Spanish League or the Italian League. It often seems that players transferring over from the Bundesliga also have an easier time adapting to the Prem than players from other leagues. I guess it's only fitting that the league welcome the influx and celebrate the cultural overlap. Hopefully Norwich prove their worth and deliver what has become somewhat commonplace, which is lower table teams being more competitive and more quality endowed than previous years. Also be interesting to see how their top scorer Teemu Pukki sounds like one of those lifelike baby dolls whose allure is changing realistically pooped in diapers does in the Prem after having scored 29 in the Championship so far. Headline number 3. Huddersfield result shows how bad Manchester United are. Liverpool's bench is no longer a weakness, and Arsenal's defense is their worst for 35 years. Yep. Sorry, United fans, but this subject has to be touched on. Lots of headlines here. We're practically drowning in United failure headlines, but I suppose this is nothing new for Premier League fans, given that failures seem to be bigger stories than victories. Surprise, surprise, I think there's actually a bigger story here. You hear pundits like Gary Neville and Paul Scholes and other former United stars emphatically shredding this United squad. They've really been taking it quite personally, and I can't blame them. Some impatient Chelsea fans have been just as bad, and the situation at the bridge doesn't seem nearly as bleak as it does for United at the moment. Or maybe it is, given the looming transfer ban, uncertainty of ownership, but I digress. United have had another catastrophically poor season, and it was definitely a poisonous cherry on the icing to draw against one of the worst sides the Premier League has ever seen in Huddersfield Town. They've got 15 points in 37 matches. United were fighting for the top 4 lives, and they still couldn't pull it together. That has got to be difficult to watch for a United fan. And of course, you've got to lay the blame on the manager, on the players, on the backroom staff, whatever. But the topic of conversation at this point has to be about the organization. We could talk about this manager or that player until we're blue in the face, and it doesn't change the fact that this has been happening from manager to manager, from squad to squad, from superstar to superstar since Fergie left. There has been almost zero stability at a club that for so many years was the absolute epitome of stability. You had to envy the fact that United fans could be so damn smug about their club. They had an organized, cohesive, unstoppable force, the history, the legacy, all there. And watching it crumble must be tough. It doesn't seem like anyone has the solution right now either. It just seems like there are a lot of angry, distressed, confused, some completely deflated, inconsolable supporters and figures surrounding it all. A lot of questions, a lot of condemnations, no solutions. Hate to say it again because I genuinely do really like the guy. But can United fans really be satisfied with Ole at the helm throughout this disaster? As far as experience goes, there's not much you can say for a young 46-year-old manager who's managed a few years in the Norwegian top flight and a failure of a year at Cardiff. How can you go through the experience of David Moyes, arguably Ryan Giggs, Louis van Gaal, and Jose Mourinho, all who failed to truly steady the ship, although credit to Mourinho for winning both the EFL Cup and the Europa League under the circumstances, which kind of seems like an extraordinary feat at this juncture. And now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is there not a glaring flaw in the logic here? Am I the only one seeing this? United seem to need a well-seasoned, stable manager with a clear vision that they're willing to back throughout the rebuilding process. Who knows? Maybe Ole will turn out to be a prodigy in this regard. Maybe under the tutelage of Sir Alex Ferguson, he'll turn out to be an instrumental cog in this revamped machine going forward. But as it stands, it's just always looked like the wrong move under duress. Headline number 4. Cardiff City players urging Neil Warnock to stay despite Premier League relegation. I want to take this moment to pay due respect to Neil Warnock and Cardiff City this season. You have to sympathize with the club and at the same time admire the culture and spirit of the entire organization, supporters included. Neil said it himself in the post-match presser. He said, "I had a tear in me eye coming around there. I've never seen a relegated team get an ovation like that. It's almost like they're all on the staff, really. They're all knowing what's happening behind the scenes and everything." I can't remember every single instance, but Cardiff City had some serious challenges this season. So many major decisions going against them. Injuries galore. Then to top it all off, they make a great signing of an experienced, talented striker, maybe precisely what they needed to put them over that last hurdle, and he loses his life in a tragic plane crash over the English Channel. Just such a horror story, inside and out. And yet, there's a spirit within the club that seems unbreakable. And you have to credit Neil Warnock for playing a big role in this. He's been such a character over the years. Football fans know him well from the much-publicized Sheffield United documentary featuring his legendary tirades, and let's just call them expressive moments. His brutal honesty and penchant for wearing his heart on his sleeve make him a very endearing figure. Not to mention the dude knows football. He may not be your Pep or your Klopp, but his experience is vast. He's literally led 8 different sides to promotion. So the guy knows how to do a job. Even in relegation, Cardiff City have shown that they know how to do a job. And sometimes luck just isn't on your side. It almost felt like they were an army of unrelenting ants being toyed with by the football gods. And though the hill has fallen, the colony lives on. Who knows if Neil Warnock will stay, but hopefully we see him back in the Prem as soon as possible. And good luck to Cardiff City fans as well. You've shown what loyalty and support for a deserving club looks like this season. Headline number 5. Liverpool will fight to the end to avoid beautiful failure. This story from Mark Ogden at ESPN FC is actually mostly about Liverpool looking to achieve the seemingly impossible against Barcelona in the semifinals of the Champions League at Anfield. It's sad to say that it seems to apply across the board for Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp. I've said it before, and I'll say it repeatedly. As a football fan, I am very thankful to Jurgen Klopp for delivering such exciting, high-octane football throughout the entirety of his campaign with Liverpool. But there's a but here. The fact remains that under Klopp, they have been perpetual runners-up at best when it comes to bottom-line results. And you could definitely argue that they deserve way more, but they just haven't gotten the job done regardless of what the reasons are. Now there's still time. Liverpool haven't lost the league yet, and crazier things have happened. They've also been in a situation like this before in the Champions League. The obvious being the 2005 final against AC Milan, in which they were down 3-0 at halftime, came back in the second half, and then went on to win it in penalties. It's interesting. You'd think that in this day and age, a manager at a top 6 club like Liverpool, who hasn't won a trophy in 4 years, would be facing massive pressure and possibly the sack. Jurgen isn't, and it has to be down to the scintillating football that his sides have produced over the years. And as a fan of the game, you have to see that as an overall positive. We are not the ones that go home with the medals, the bonuses, the trophies, the accolades. You may value the momentary bragging rights, I know I do. But all in all, what we get is the football and the pride that our club is playing with heart, tenacity, and style. That is what we should be hoping for as fans, because it's all we truly get. Headline number 6. Tottenham weighing up whether to challenge Son Heung-min's red card in Premier League against Bournemouth. Surprisingly enough, Spurs have managed to avoid the headlines after another horrible result against Bournemouth at the weekend. There's like 6,000 articles written about United, but a vital Spurs game featuring 2 red cards to Spurs players as well as a last gasp winner by Bournemouth? Not newsworthy, I suppose. Anyway, we can talk about the Son red card. Maybe it was a little harsh. Jefferson Lerma definitely played it up a bit, but Son should know better than to so overtly push another player in front of the referee. What a stupid move, to be honest. I know he's a fan favorite and deservedly so, but he made a big mistake here, and he let his teammates as well as the supporters down. Now, the fourth red card was just a typical example of a young, inexperienced player letting the overwhelming energy of the occasion get to him. It was a red, no question. I suppose the insignificance of the game with regards to the top four, short of an Arsenal miracle where they reverse an 8-goal differential disparity between the two teams and a Tottenham loss, had something to do with the lack of coverage. Tottenham should bag a top four spot. But again, there's a bigger story here, one that maybe the board at Tottenham have been lucky to avoid scrutiny over in this moment. The club has done a magnificent job over the years with and before Pochettino. They've managed to put together a team of 11 players worthy of a top four finish and possibly some silverware. The only issue is that they don't have a squad worthy of it. All credit to them for developing, keeping those big names, and continuing to oil that machine together. That takes resolve. It takes club culture. It takes pride. But I think the elephant in the room is that they haven't invested enough. They just haven't. The speculation time and time again has always been that when Pochettino was heavily linked with the job at United, pundits, rightly so, questioned the ambition of the club. Questioned whether or not the club had sufficiently put their money where their mouths were and given Pochettino enough to feel confident in staying. Maybe if Pochettino knew where this season was heading, he'd be at United right now, and maybe their story would be a little different. I don't mean to cast aspersions on Tottenham overall, or even to condemn this season as a failure, but there's no question that this finish has been disappointing. To be fair, they are still in the semifinals of the Champions League, and we all know that Ronaldinho came out predicting they'd win the tournament. However unlikely, they could still win it, and that would certainly change things. The question still begs an answer. Where would Spurs be if they had brought in just one more player? 2 more players? We'll never know, but the question itself must frustrate the heck out of Spurs fans. Interesting to see where this project goes. Headline number 7. Chelsea to bring Zuma back for pre-season, despite Everton interest in permanent deal as transfer ban looms. I have to admit, as a Chelsea supporter, this has actually been on my mind all season. There's no question that Andreas Christensen has improved greatly, and Antonio Rudiger has been phenomenal. David Luiz has actually probably had his best season yet as far as overall performance goes. But he's getting up there. He's 32 years old, and you know how that works out in this game. But back to Zuma. Transfer ban or no transfer ban, this kid is a monster. I challenge you to find a better last-ditch tackler in the game. His power and athleticism are remarkable. I've also noticed that his passing game has dramatically improved over the last couple of years. I always felt that his passes were slow and telegraphed, and now he's really starting to look like a quality footballer. I'm not sure he has the technical skill that Sarri would want in his back too, but a transfer ban might force the club's hand, and I tend to think that he's still young and talented enough to adapt to Sarri's vision. I want to take this moment to bid farewell to Chelsea stalwart defender Gary Cahill. He has been a warrior for the club since the day they got him from relegation-destined Bolton. Poor Alvaro Morata essentially bid him a happy retirement. The only problem being that he's not retiring. Marcos Alonso was forced to hilariously call him out, but let's all just give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that he was just congratulating Cahill on his career to this point. Thank you all for watching another episode of Reading Between the Headlines. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Maybe even share it. If you have anything you'd like to add, you know where to do it. From myself and little tiny broken Picard, we hope that you live football and prosper.